Suicide Zen Forgiveness. Shattering Stigma, Igniting Hope. I'm Elaine Lindsay, and my mission is to end the silence, the stigma, and the shame surrounding suicide, ideation, and mental health. We talk about the hard stuff, because asking for help should be as easy as ordering a coffee. Here, we share real stories from those who've lost someone, survived an attempt, live with ideation, or battle mental health challenges. Because sharing your burden can lighten the load. Please note, Suicide Zen Forgiveness, the podcast, is for education only. Some of the subject matter could be triggering for those who are either grieving or having mental health problems. If you're in North America, you can text 988 for immediate support. And if you're elsewhere, please reach out to your local suicide hotline or mental health service. You matter. My aim is to normalize the conversation so you feel safe enough to speak up and ask for help. So now, let's start the show. Hello there, and I'm very happy to be back with you. I am Elaine Lindsay, and this is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. Today, my guest is Christian Elliot. Hi there.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm very happy to have you come on the show. We're going to jump right ahead in and give you a chance to tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll get into the story that you're going to share with us today. And we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
Christian, tell us about you.
Thanks for the opportunity. So, yes, as she said, my name's Christian. I've been a professional health coach for about 20 years. My sweet spot is really just helping people find the reasons why they're sick. I go after root causes. And one of the things I've identified over the years is that it's often just the mental, emotional, spiritual realm as much or more than it is the physical realm. And so my background is as much in nutrition and fitness and then holistic health with alternative practitioners. And really, we built a team of wellness people. And then in 2017, we just transitioned to virtual coaching. And really, I grew my business around life coaching and relational coaching and helping people overcome the big mental and emotional toxins that are often what bog people down and steal their joy. It steals their motivation. It steals their will to try. And it fills them instead with who cares, why bother, what does it matter if I do or don't do this thing? And sometimes it's just simple little motivation fluctuations that people go through. And other times it's existential crises and fear that there's no point and that there's no believable outcome that's good enough or that would be possible. And so I just don't pursue with enough intent or enough energy the things that would lead to a better life. And so that is really a lot of what I do on the day-to-day is we've got several different themed coaching calls throughout the week. And one of them is specifically for emotional and relational intelligence to help people have really just a safe space to talk about just the ups and downs of life and where we got these ideas that we live by and the core stories we're telling ourselves. And so that's a little window into what I do on the day-to-day.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure within that sphere of influence, you cover probably a lot of grief with people as well. Grief can hit us through something as horrific as suicide loss or ideation or our own mental health. It can also be the loss of a job, the loss of a pet. All of these things can cause us to allow grief to take over. And that's why, thank you, we need coaches and mentors and people who help you deal with these things that, although our day to day can be a huge stopping block in our lives. I'm definitely one who knows that because I basically sat on the edge of my life for almost 40 years. And that's no way to keep on living for sure. We talked for just a few minutes before you came on, and we touched on the fact that your community, I guess it's children that are being taught, has recently suffered a loss.
Yeah, it was. So we have a homeschool community that we've belonged to for several years, and recently there's a family that is part of that community, and during the school day, they got word that the dad in the family committed suicide, and he had just been at church the day before. And so there's this wave of shock that went through a campus of dozens and dozens of people. And word spreads quickly and leaves all sorts of question marks for so many people of so many ages. And so, yeah, we've had a handful of conversations around here that have been just reminding us of what's important in life and to not take things for granted, to not leave things unsaid, and to just have a little bit more attunement to other people's needs and just the genuine recognition that everyone you meet's going through something. And just because they may put on a face on the outside doesn't mean there's not something significant going on underneath. So yeah, that one hit home in a different way than hearing about it on the news or hearing the statistics of it. It's just that
Yeah.
it's more personal that way.
I'm going to stop you there and do forgive me, but this is something we run into a lot is the languaging around suicide has changed. And sadly, it's so recent that I've been talking about this with our community because it's been happening an awful lot. The term committed suicide, that was an actual fact. It wasn't just something we said, it was said because attempting suicide was, in fact, a crime.
Hmm.
And in the United States, most of the states gave it up as a crime in this 1966, I believe. And here in Canada, we gave it up in 72. As people who watch the show know, I lost my friend New Year's Eve of 1972. And in fact, part of my angst and my reluctance to deal with this was because people still considered it a crime.
Hmm.
People are very easily triggered now, and we all have to be more cognizant of the things that hurt those that are left behind because no one wants to feel that their loved one is a criminal. And the fact is, for those 40 years that I talked about, the silence, the stigma, and the shame surrounding suicide has kept people like me, tons of people, quiet
Hmm.
about the people that we have lost. And I really thank you very much for allowing me to share that with you and let you know, what the changes are. I will say this, and the very sad thing is, it is still on the books in Virginia
Hmm.
to this day. And there are many other countries around the world that attempted suicide is still considered a crime. We all hope that one day that in itself will change, but for now, we do what we can here. And I'm sorry to interrupt you as
No,
I
that's
did.
fine.
Do you deal with the children that are homeschooled? I would assume are all ages.
Yeah, there's quite a range. It goes from basically kindergarten through 12. And so there's I don't think any age that was, I don't know how all the families handled it, but
Yeah,
pretty much families of any or kids of any age had to deal with the quick spread of concerning news and sobs
yeah,
and just
yeah,
questions of why are people crying and what's going on. And that's, yeah, it's
yeah.
never fun and ever expected. But it's, in some ways it has bonded people to each other in ways that you need support when things like that happen. And yeah, that was a heavy one to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I very quickly said to you before, it's one thing when you're coaching people through grief and helping people with loss and with challenges with their mental health, but it takes on a whole different nuance when it comes very close to home.
Yeah. No, it floors you a little bit. When I first heard that, it's just didn't drop the phone, but you have a moment of, I don't have words for this. I don't know. There wasn't a context for someone doing something like that within our
Yeah.
community. And so you take a deeper breath, you take a breath where your eyes water and you just shake your head and say, what in the world just happened? And yeah, there's initially, for at least for me, I mean, my family, there was more silence and questions our silence before questions even came, and just the hug and the appreciation for those of us that are still here, and that wow, if none of us saw that coming, who are there any is there anybody else we know who may have something like that? And what could we do to bring hope and perspective and healing to our community through something like that?
That's such a wonderful response, because the first response is always shock,
Yeah.
and denial, and it just like, how can this be? Asking the questions that people will forever ask: what did we miss? What did we
Mhm.
not see? How did we
Yeah.
not know that he felt that way? And the fact is, you're never going to get the answers to those questions. We just don't. But what it does do is open the door for more conversation, even at the young child level, of what are the thoughts that go through people's heads. Because quite often, in the case of ideation, I was a child. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea why sometimes, if something went wrong, if I burnt my toast or I didn't get an A on an exam, part of me thought, oh, then I should just exit this life.
Wow.
There was, it didn't make any sense to me, but I didn't know that other people didn't feel that way. And I'm a baby boomer, so the time I was a child, things were very different, and you sure didn't say things out loud.
Mm.
You saw what happened to people who did, and that made us all that much quieter. For now, it is so important. I don't know about in your coaching, but being able to speak about suicide and being able to ask people how their mental health is probably one of the biggest ways you can help with prevention. Just as a neighbor, a friend, a schoolmate, just checking in on those around you is
Mhm.
one of those things I don't think we do enough.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I like to think a large part of my work is as much a dispenser of hope as it is anything else. And I'm dependably positive. I'm very difficult to discourage. And I think people can sense that it's not manufactured, that there's some place it comes from. And for them to be curious, to have like if you're in that funk, to have a contrary example that people can live in that headspace. And there is reason to hope. And so part of what, if I have any effectiveness in that arena, it's as much holding space for and listening to people's hard stories. And often those hard stories go back to early childhood events. That could be traumas, that could be bullies, that could be self images or scary things that happened that weren't really had nothing to do with them, just scared them. And so often the will to try gets beat down early enough in life. And then when there's fear to make an effort starts to we shrink, we live smaller lives and we are afraid to take risks. And part of the way out of that is seeing what I like to collect, what I call outlier stories. I like to collect extreme examples of people who overcame some of the most difficult circumstances you could imagine. And with enough of those kind of almost at the ready, it's easier sometimes to paint a picture for someone of what the human spirit is capable of overcoming. And when they find a strong enough why, when they find a belief that, hey, maybe it's a long shot, but it's still possible, and people like me have overcome something like this, maybe I could do it too. And that often is the way into a little bit different gear of will, a little bit different juice for life that will help them find the will to go on for that day. And a lot of times there's those waves of overwhelm, you surf them and they pass, or those waves of whatever that fear is. They're not permanent. They just needed space for somebody to listen. They just needed belief that things could be different and some sort of direction of where to aim myself so that I can increase my odds and find some hope. And yeah, I whether it's just giving them examples or whether I go from a Christian perspective as well. So I can ground a discussion in kind of the first principles of life and what this whole thing is about and what happens. Where did we come from and where do we go and what makes this life worth it? And it makes it so much easier to find the question, because I know human nature well, that can get somebody talking. And often when they've just been heard, suddenly they feel different.
That is so true. Being seen and heard is truly the most important thing you can do for another human being.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other thing is, of course, saying their name.
Mm,
I think it was Andrew Carnegie who said the sweetest sound to any human being is the sound of their own name. And sometimes that is simply a validation that you are seen,
yeah.
that you are heard. And that can definitely be so powerful. So I'm really curious as to what got you into the homeschooling space, and are you able to bring in your religion as well as knowledge and teachings and what have you for the children? It must be rewarding to have a community in which your children are thriving that way.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate word. It has been such a blessing to us on so many levels. It is a sacrifice. It's not to say there is no difficulty or it's not work. It is effort, but we look at it, we jokingly say, and that's reason number 468 why we chose homeschooling. There are so many things about the public school system that just make no sense to us, that just seem like it's like I now jokingly refer to it as indoctrination daycare. They just go away. You put in 18 years of hard work and they're gone and you missed a lot of it. And so we get a lot more time and influence, and it's just a very different experience. Our kids run around this neighborhood we live in, and some people refer to them as old-fashioned kids. They often don't have shoes on, and they're not riding e-bikes and staring at screens. And they, at all different ages, will engage anyone at any age. They're not intimidated. They're well-adjusted kids, and to watch them go through that, it has been. I wish I could go back and be one of my own kids. It just, the education they got or they get is so much different, and they're so much more confident, and they don't have. It's like we skipped. We traded some time for a lot of drama. We don't have drama. My kids so far, my teenagers, have never hit a rebellious phase. Like, it's not a thing. And part of that is the curriculum. To your question about does our worldview or our values get interspersed? Yeah, we picked it's called Classical Conversations, and it is a Christian-based curriculum. And there's a co-op that meets weekly, and we just have a curriculum built around all of these different disciplines are pointing us back to the Creator, and that they develop debate skills and reasoning skills, and they defend their topics, and they do mock trials, and they've memorized more things than you could possibly imagine that you'd want to have on recall. And they have, as they grow, they have context for this giant timeline of history they've memorized. So yeah, it's a very different experience, and that ability for them to bond, I think, in many ways would be a bulwark, the heaviness of the topic that we're talking about today, because they're in rich community, and every week they get to, no matter the age, they have to present something, and they just get so confident in front of other people that it's not weird, and they get to push each other's ability to reason and have people skills and on. And so yeah, it's been a rich experience for us.
And how long has the community existed?
This curriculum it's all over the world, so it's not unique to where
Yeah.
we are, but it's existed before. My daughter is graduating now from high school. She's 18, so it existed when we started. I don't know how far back it goes before that, but our campus is several years old. We've been at this one for 4 years, and so yeah, it's just been wonderful. It's what you would want education to be, where the families in our community have bonded so well, because if you homeschool, you're already sharing a lot of values.
Yeah.
You do it for the freedom. You do it to be able to shape your kids' education. You do it for so many reasons. And yeah, so it's been a great experience.
Wow. It sounds wonderful. And I can relate to the no shoes in summers as a child,
Yeah.
playing in the ravines in Toronto. We were out of doors from the minute we could get out until the very last little beam of light.
Good for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sounds like my kids. Yes. Where are they? They're somewhere in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Oh my God. There was so much to see and do.
Yeah.
And so they have no electronics, they have none of that,
Well, they
or
yeah,
is
the
it
personally, my wife and I we've created a more of a limited media diet. You could like we have our teenagers more or less have dumb phones. They're not
yeah,
we don't but they have computers and they have schoolwork they need to do, so they do access the internet. But we've curated a home where our technology is not an appendage to us. Our kids don't have electronic bikes and scooters and whatever. They have to power them themselves, and they don't get extended screen time privileges. They get it confined into a little box that's playful. And so we don't watch a lot of television, and we can play video games a little bit on the weekends, and but we're more interested in quality time and growing them up with privacy focused technology that serves them rather than mind controls and manipulates, and they're just another commodity. And I can't tell you the number of places we go where you just see four teenagers sitting at a table and they're all looking at their phone. And my kids are just like the ones who are like, geez, I don't want one of those phones. I don't want to be that kid. Just people just can't, like, even adults, we can't get away from this
I
screen.
was gonna say that, I was gonna say it's not even just the kids, it's
Yeah.
the adults too.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't tell you how many times 2 days ago, we were out in the car, and we had to stop 3 times because someone was crossing the road who was looking at their phone. They weren't looking at the cars that were on the
That's,
road, and they had earbuds in, and I'm a real nervous Nelly. There's no way I could walk around with earbuds because if someone came up behind me, I'd jump 40 feet. But that whole concept to me is just bizarre. And although my grandkids have all the bells and whistles, they're into all the technology. My daughter-in-law is a personal trainer who specializes in pediatrics and what have you.
huh.
And the kids only get to play video games or do anything like that if they are on the trampoline.
Oh.
There must be some exercise happening if they're going to be doing something. And it's actually interesting because they have incredible the hand-eye coordination and muscle control because they're having to do all this at the same time. The kids always wanna go outside. There's no we're not seeing I do know people whose kids have no interest in the out of doors. It's just stick with the screens, but I think it's important for parents to limit all of that stuff. For some people, it's a babysitter. It's not about the screen time. It's about letting the adults do what they wanna do. I
Mhm.
don't think that's viable either. But I think it would be really interesting to see any studies done on kids that have gone through homeschooling for all of the formative years and see what their I guess, what their life paths are like and how much more centered they are. How
Yeah. They are, and the curriculum that we've chosen, the kids that go through that have no trouble getting scholarships. They're some of the most wooed and wanted by the colleges because that's head and shoulders above their
yeah.
peers from public school, and their confidence, their ability, their knowledge is deeper. And yeah, some of that just by nature of homeschool, you're going to be around different ages, which is different from the public school where you're just with one age, and so you're
Yeah.
used to relating to a lot of people. And especially I have 6 kids, so we have a lot of different ages, and they're used to being around all it. So you just get it sharpens you faster, I think, in a community where you're with different ages and you have to, when you're older, you have to manage your strength. And when you're younger, you have to have some confidence to speak up for yourself. And
Yeah.
those, it just comes naturally because you're used to talking. And the classes are intentionally small so that every kid gets floor time. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it really does turn out a very different kid. And so I can't speak highly enough of it. Yeah.
It sounds wonderful. It really does. I don't know I don't know what the feasibility is for all communities to
Mhm.
morph into a more homeschooled system based on Like in my head, it's fairly simplistic. COVID allowed for people to work remotely and work hybrid, sometimes
Hmm.
at home, sometimes at the office. I don't see why you couldn't extend that to homeschooling as well. So many parents were left scrambling during COVID because
Hmm.
all of a sudden they still had to go to work, but their children, one child had COVID, which meant the whole class went home for 2 weeks. And the parents had to scramble and try and see how they could manage that because there's only so many sitters to go around. And if
Hmm.
you're not used to getting sitters all day, if your kids are in middle school, this is not something that it falls within your purview on a day-to-day basis. There was an awful lot of scrambling, certainly here in Canada, and our friends in the States said the same thing. It was very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
I suppose it'd be a little different within the community because it is a little more insular.
Yeah. Yeah. Our life was not disrupted much at all by COVID. I work from home, my kids are homeschooled, and it was a little bit different because there were fewer people out and some of the, you know,
Yeah.
different places were closed for a while. But yeah, we're just used to being together anyway. And so it made life sweeter because we had less stress and less crowds and all the other.
That's
So
true.
yeah, it there's some update. A lot of people wonder if they have what it takes to do it, or oh, I never could do that, or I'm not
Yeah.
a professional educator. But I would challenge those notions. No one is going to love your kids more than you do, and you don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to point them and what the tools are and how to build community and or where to find community. And it is not easy to do it by yourself, but you don't need to do it by yourself. And each of our kids have different tutors, and that's baked into the experience.
Ah,
And they largely become self motivated because they want to do it for their peers. They want to do it because they represent themselves and their family. And so we haven't had the lazy kid who just won't do the work. That's just not a thing. Who'd rather be on the phone and watch cartoons or play games or it's not, you just get a completely different culture,
yeah.
and that they don't know anything different. So to them, the public schoolers are the weird kids. They go, how come they're always on their phone? Why does nobody make eye contact? How come they can't talk to people? They're just all quiet.
They don't know how to say hello.
And to them, it's the majority is the weird part. So yeah, it can be if when you don't know anything different, it's just a whole
Yeah.
different ballgame.
Actually, it sounds lovely. It really does. I know I'm not a patient person,
Yeah.
so I don't think I would make a good homeschooler.
You develop patience because you would have to. And
Okay.
you would lean into it because of the mission is worth it, because of who you become in the process, and because I'm not going to abdicate a sacred duty because I tell myself I'm not a patient person. The patience isn't like something that you're either zinged with it or you're not. It's a virtue to cultivate. It's like any other discipline or virtue. It's not, you don't max it out. You just get a little better at it. You become a little more self-aware, and you become a little bit more, you be a little slower to speak, quicker to listen, a little less judgmental. You stop reasoning from unverified assumptions, and you take a deep breath and say, okay, well, that happened. Now what can I do about it? And it's an invitation to think about life at a systems level. It's an invitation to think about life from a different angle or a different scenario. Who would I have to become to be patient in this scenario? And sure enough, there's an answer to those types of questions.
Mm. That is that's so interesting. It's not something we thought of for long. Our kids are 9 years apart, so it was different with both of them. I suppose it depends on where you are as well. It would be actually, it might be easier for people to do it up here because we have 6 or 7 months of the year where there are days you can't get out of your house.
Yeah, I bet as cold as it is where you are,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it saves gas money. It saves the stress of just whatever PTA meetings, teacher drama, bullies in
Yeah.
school. There's so like just the whole health freedom puzzle and navigating curriculum that you may or may not want your kids seeing. And there's just, it's freedom from so many scenarios that you can just like opt out. Don't have to bother with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this something you and your wife had planned before you had children?
Not necessarily. So here it played out. I'm the oldest of four. My two younger siblings finished out their schooling as homeschoolers. I didn't ever homeschool myself, but my siblings did. And I
Ah,
started seeing compelling arguments, like the difference in the education quality was remarkable from what I got. And to see what homeschooling could become, there was a we went and visited a campus to just get a sense of what is this and is this something we would consider? And there were a few things that were said. I was like, wow. Like one of them was we're redeeming two generations at once. Like it's taking the education you didn't get and you get to almost go through it and you get to take your kid through it. And that spoke to me. And then the recognition that you can't mess up kindergarten, you can't mess up first grade. Like I definitely can teach that. And so my wife said, okay, I'll do this for a year. And if I don't mess it up, I'll consider a second year. And umpteen years later, we're still doing it
yeah.
because it's it the path that your skills grow as they grow.
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't need to know how to homeschool a high schooler when you only have a 5-year-old. That you'll figure that out on the way there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're graduating a senior this year, and we have a son in ninth grade, and they're thriving. And it's not because we became high school teachers. It's because we found a system and a community where they're largely self-directed and they have peers that are responsible for the same things. And they have a tutor that works with the group of them and keeps them on task. And they look forward to meeting each other every week. And so it really is a very different setting and a different mindset.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not, I think, what people think of when they think homeschool being stuck at the table in the kitchen with
No.
your 4 kids and, like, from kindergarten to grade 12, which is obviously something very different when you're talking tutors and getting together, and you're talking about a whole different system, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there were people that believed in it so much that not surprisingly, they took the time to think of how to make this doable for families or for large families and
Yeah,
how to not pretend that mom can teach 6 classes at once at the table. That was never the model, but that's what we think of because of what we know is public school. And that's what you do. There's one stage and there's 30 kids and everybody hears the same thing. And you go with the spade of the slowest student in the room. And we don't have to do any of that. And some things what's fun too is they're learning from each other. Like the third grader helps the first grader, and
yeah.
they see the things that are coming, and so they're a little ahead when it's their turn. And it's just not that hard. But they have their worksheets. My wife typically has the way our kids are spaced about two at a time that involve her day from about 9 to 2. She's working with the two of them. The other two are self-directed. The other two are too small to. They're just there making messes, and we're cleaning them up. So that's just part of the way it runs.
Yeah. Wow. You've given me so much to think about because I
Well, you're welcome.
obviously had no concept what was involved here.
Yeah, I can keep going, but I'll let you guide me.
Well, yeah, it's truly fascinating. And your own work, obviously, you have time for that as well.
Yes, yeah. I have an
Yeah.
office, and sometimes it's quiet in the house, and other times it's not as quiet. But I have noise canceling headphones, and there's a coffee shop nearby if I really need to get away. And
Yeah.
but what's so fun about being a coach for me is I've had to eat my own cooking. I've had to solve problems for other people that I need solved myself. And
Yeah.
one of those big ones is a system that runs the home. So it's not 2 versus 6, and we're just my wife and I are responsible for everything, and they're just freeloaders who don't contribute. And we want to raise competent humans who are well adjusted and have skills when they leave the house, not are dependent and expecting everyone to just meet their needs all the time. Now,
Yeah.
you're a contributor in this family, and we expect things of you, and we're not going to praise you for brushing your teeth or for making us dinner. That's part of the gig. And taking out the trash is you don't get allowance for that. That's called contributing to the family. But we've figured out the systems that run the home. And they're not perfect because kids are not always plannable, but by and large they work. And we do get the trash out and the dishes do get done and the laundry's folded. And the things it takes to run a home done well, distributed, leave time for family and play and
Yeah.
meaningful experiences. And I had to solve that problem as a coach, and I had to solve it for myself. And so what's so fun about being a coach is when I see, oh, I needed that advice I just gave that person. That happens all the time. And it's just part of, like, eventually you start to become a very quick study at finding the challenges that people really have, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, whether it's logistical. It could be any of those. And they're not impossible puzzles to solve. They're just the next one. But what I love to aspire to is to call myself a systems level or first principle thinker. I want to operate from the first principle, where the idea being there's nothing that comes before this, right? Water
Yeah.
runs downhill was an easy one. There will
Yeah.
always be things that are dependable. And with dependable things, as far as I can tell, the kids get hungry every day.
Yeah.
They don't, there's no day off where they don't like out. Just, Dad, you don't need to worry about Sundays. We won't eat. That's going to happen every day. I probably should have a system where, like, dinner should not sneak up on us. Like, what? The kids are hungry again. There ought to be a system for that. Otherwise, we have no underwear and no food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of different examples of that kind of thing, but that has made me a better coach and hopefully a better person in the process.
Yeah. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because it makes so much sense. Yeah, they don't stop. They do eat every day. They
Yeah.
change their clothes every day. They sleep every day. All of those things have to happen, whether we enjoy them or whether we're farming them out or not.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to have everybody contribute.
Yeah.
Because never lived in that type of a community, but our whole family always contributed because that's how I was brought up. And it makes the work easier, but also it gives you more time for the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And my grandmother used to say, needs must.
What did she mean by that?
I always just think, what on earth is that? She'd say, if something really needs to happen, then you will find that it must go on.
Yeah.
It must happen for you, and you will find yourself doing what you need in order to go forward.
Yeah, that's my sentiment, saying, and I think almost anyone can homeschool. It's you do it because I need to figure this out now. Like, my kid can't read. Okay. I'm not just be like, never mind. It's probably not important. Like, you're going to figure out what to do to teach them to read. And that may mean you experiment, but the beauty is it's your kid and you're invested in their growth. Whereas maybe somebody else isn't so invested, or likely someone isn't. So
it's true. And we came from Scotland, Canada, when I was 3. And before I ever went to kindergarten, I came from a place that expected the parents to teach you your name, your address, how to write, how to read. It was part of their job as parents. And somewhere along the way, I think we messed that up or lost it in some form. And so much has been put on teachers who don't have any real skin in the game. I'm not saying
it's
teachers
not
are bad.
disparaging. Yeah. It's just real. Or they can't have skin in the game for 30 kids. It's too many. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But at home, like, we get to invest in our kids, and we use that word intentionally. It occurred to me years ago that chore time and parenting don't have to be separate things. Like, teaching our kids to do dishes and to do life with them is parenting, and it is modeling. It does teach. And I want them to struggle to scratch the crusty stuff off a plate or clean out the trash can, because I want them to learn they can do hard things, and they don't get a free pass when something gets hard. And I get to be there with them more frequently because I'm home and because they're home. And there's a confidence you get when you realize you can do hard things. It was fun. My oldest son has a lawn mowing business. He's 15. He's had it for 4 years. And he was the cute little kid that was half pint running around the neighborhood pushing this giant lawnmower and crying and sweating and this is hard and it's hot and there's bugs and I don't know if I can do this and there's too many people and now he's fine. But
Yeah.
he wouldn't have had that confidence had he not. We didn't give him like, sorry, you got to mow the yard. Sorry, you better get going because it's going to get dark.
Yeah.
So you can cry about it, but you still got to get it done. So should we just start? And sure enough, it toughens them up. They realize, okay, hard work is valuable. And now he's going to be
Yeah.
able to buy his own car before he's even 16. So he's, yeah, there's something beautiful about being able to gift your kids. Another phrase that was really helpful is the gift of an extended childhood. They
Yeah.
don't have to grow up and face the bully so fast. They don't have to fit some other mold of where they're supposed to be. And they can grow at their pace and not get this. The peer pressure that comes in those giant institutions, it's just forces things into their awareness that they don't need yet. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that's another gift we found from homeschool.
Now, I want to ask a couple of tough questions. So,
Sure.
within this framework, what about kids that have a mental health issue, that struggle with something? How does that work within the community or within a family? Is there collective help for that? And or is it happens less often?
Yeah, that really would depend on the campus, the curriculum, the who's in what community. So a special needs kid it wouldn't necessarily do as well in the model that we're talking about. But if I had a special needs kid, it doesn't mean I wouldn't have other options that I could pursue
Okay.
for something like that. I don't have that scenario, so I haven't had to find those options, but I know they exist. And I know there are like friends in our neighborhood that have type kids like that. And you find other caretakers, you find other ways to support them, and they get to learn at and grow at their pace and find the tutor that can make all the difference. So it allows for a level of personalization that is harder to find, I think, in the arena of public school. And if your listeners have not read this will come full circle here, the book Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier, it is a damning look at the public school system and their use of therapy. And one of the worst examples is the social emotional learning and the way that they get kids to marinate and navel gaze in everything hard and everything sad. And they have questionnaires about how often they think about suicide. And it's pointing kids down rather than pulling them up. And that is a sickening, you could get conspiratorial and say gross development that's weaponized against the populace for an extraction model of just putting kids on meds the rest of their life. And as parents, we get to be the bulwark against that and says, no, if I have whatever kid I got, that's the one God gave me. And so I'll do the best I can with it. But to put them in environments that are dragging them down and traumatizing them, I can't allow that to happen as a parent. And this therapy world has in many ways gotten a free pass because they know the right buzzwords to sound like they're helping, and they're actually creating. That's the reason she named it bad therapy. Like I used to think of therapy as just kind of this, it was neutral, not helpful at all, to wow, that's amazing. Now I've expanded the spectrum to the left, egregiously weaponized and harmful and destructive for kids, all the way to very helpful. It can go that way. And if parents don't have an eye for what's going on in the school and what kind of, whether it's social emotional learning or any number of other therapists that are at schools, by and large, one of her most compelling arguments in the book is that we have developed a generation of snowflakes and entitled kids and kids who are fearful, and mom and dad have to go to their interviews with them because they've never learned resilience. They've never learned to toughen up. And if we want to shift the culture and diminish this suicide problem, that would be a great place to start. Enough of us just opting out of the system, developing a better way and doing what we've done in homeschool. And sure enough, you get well-adjusted humans who are going to be a boost to society rather than a drain on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's an interesting full circle we came to there.
And it certainly is. It
Yeah.
certainly is. So, boy, you've given myself and our audience a lot to think about. I wish you well with all 6 kids. Wow.
Thank you.
That's a
Yeah,
whole family.
it is. There's a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, and there used to be in all families, there used to be an awful lot of kids, and that may be the way we're going back to. Who knows? I thank you so much for joining me today.
You're
This
welcome,
has
Elaine.
been Christian Elliot. And if you have questions, you'll be able to find down below all the information about Christian and how to get a hold of him and what he does. And we'll make sure that you know exactly how to find him. I thank you so much. I'm Elaine Lindsay. This is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We will see you next time. And in the meantime, I would like you to make the very most of your today, every day. Bye for now.
Thank you for being here for another inspiring episode of Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe and download on your favorite service and check out SZF's YouTube channel or Facebook community. If you have the chance to leave a 5-star rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. Please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from the hope and inspiration from our guests. Suicide Zen Forgiveness was brought to you by the following sponsors. Truel Social Media, the digital integration specialists. Let them get you rockin' page 1 in the search results. Canada's keynote humorist Judy Croon, motivational speaker, comedian, author, and stand-up coach at Second City. Judy has been involved for over a decade in the City Street Outreach Program in Toronto.
The ultimate podcasting pack. This is great for you if you're just starting your podcast or if you've been running it for a while. It's filled with tools, templates, and trainings for starting, growing, and monetizing your podcast. Get access to time-saving systems and strategies for accelerating your process at each step. Find new connections and collaborations in the uplifting podcasting community. I look forward to seeing you there.
Do you have a story to share? Do you know someone you think would be a great guest? Please go to szf42.com. And for our American listeners, that's szf42.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again.